Okay, thank you so much for those watching us live this morning on Facebook. And we also appreciate everyone who's watching the recordings on YouTube or on Facebook. So, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time it is for all of you. This is My Empowered Political Life for April 9th, 2025. And today we are going to get away from US politics and back a little bit towards some geopolitics, which we haven't done in a few days. So, we're going to talk about the possibility of Chinese troops fighting in Ukraine. And let's see what's going on here. So, Ukraine has captured what appear to be some Chinese troops. Yesterday, we learned that Ukraine had captured two Chinese nationals on the front lines in Ukraine. They did appear to be fighting for Russia. Now, there is a lot we don't know yet. What we do know is Ukraine captured Chinese nationals fighting for Russia on the front lines. It's not yet clear whether they are Chinese regulars, Chinese special forces, quote, volunteers, or possibly Chinese nationals who were caught up and conscripted by the Russians somehow. However, it's not great news. Regardless, this could be a major escalation in the war. Ukraine had been working very hard to try and keep China happy. One of the ways they do this is by purchasing substantial amounts of semiconductors from China. Ukraine, out of sheer necessity, because they're under existential threat, has developed an impressive domestic defense industrial industry in Ukraine, and they produce millions of drones. They are on the cutting edge of military drone technology, which of course requires lots of semiconductors. The United States, we tend to purchase ours from Taiwan rather than China, or we make them domestically. Ukraine has been purchasing theirs from China to try and stay in China's good graces, hoping that exactly this sort of thing would not happen, that they would not find Chinese troops in Ukraine. Now, they captured the two. It's highly unlikely those are the only two. It's hard to believe that there were two Chinese soldiers and Ukraine just happened to capture both of them. If they captured two, they could represent hundreds at the least, if not thousands, hopefully not thousands. This could be a huge embarrassment for the Chinese government, and we have yet to see a response. I'm hoping by the time I do my week in review on Saturday, we will have some sort of response from the Chinese government that we can update us on. So that's where things stand with the potential of Chinese troops in Ukraine. We're going to have to see where it goes from here and what exactly happens. As long as we're talking about foreign troops in Ukraine, I'd like to talk about the North Korean troops. This is also potentially troubling. The North Korean troops are learning in Ukraine, they're learning fast. For several months, we've known that North Koreans are fighting for Russia. Certainly many thousands, if not tens of thousands of them. And they are definitely North Korean regulars sent there by the North Korean government, definitely fighting on the Russian side. When the North Koreans first arrived, the Ukrainians called them meat, as in meat for the grinder. The Russians used the poorly trained and equipped North Koreans for human wave attacks against fortified positions. If you're not familiar with the military term human wave attack, it's just what it sounds like. It's a wave of people thrown into a hailstorm of bullets. And once the North Koreans forced the Ukrainian troops to use up their ammunition, the better equipped Russian troops would move in to clean up and take the position. Now, however, the Ukrainians are coming to respect the North Korean soldiers a great deal. The North Korean troops are adapting very quickly on the battlefield. They are smart, resourceful, and brave in combat. And the North Koreans, after only a few months on the front lines, are now considered to be among the most elite troops in the war at this point. As the North Korean soldiers adapt, they're learning to use advanced drone technology. They're developing sophisticated infantry tactics, and they are becoming much more effective in their attacks. Hence the Ukrainian respect for the North Korean troops at this point on the front lines. I was able to find some quotes. This is from Major Olev Tryayev of Ukraine's 225th Assault Regiment. He is among the Ukrainian officers who is most experienced at fighting the North Koreans on the front lines. So, from the major, they do not surrender. I don't remember any cases where we have been able to take them captive. We have taken some who were already wounded, but I think they died from their wounds. The major goes on to say, they were moving forward not as a company, but in small groups. using reconnaissance, grenade dropping, and first-person view attack drones. They were doing these assaults in small groups so that they would not suffer such large losses at once. In other words, they're learning to use drones the way the Ukrainians use them, and they are learning modern infantry tactics. They're no longer using outdated human wave attacks, but they're learning to attack like modern, well-trained infantry. Again, from the major, they are the best prepared in terms of their physical preparation. They are good marksmen. They are not afraid to engage drones. They are shooting down drones with guns. They do not leave their wounded behind. They always try to evacuate them. Now, there's a lot to unpack here. He's saying physical preparation, they're in good physical shape for combat. They are not malnourished and starved. And saying they're not afraid to engage drones and shooting down drones with guns, it is not easy to use a rifle to shoot down a drone that's buzzing around overhead. But the North Koreans are figuring out how to do it. And when he points out they don't leave their wounded behind, they evacuate, that is the sign of a mature military with a serious camaraderie. You may have heard the saying in the American military, leave no man behind. In the American military, the attitude is you never get left behind, whether you're alive, dead, wounded, whatever, we do not leave you behind. And that's the sign of a very mature military where the men are fighting for and with one another. And that's how the North Koreans are now developing into a mature military with serious camaraderie. From our major, again on the front lines, where Russian forces are being sent into battle under duress, as with a horsewhip, Koreans are more devoted, and to die heroically on the field of battle is something that Korean soldiers are proud of. So he's pointing out here that it is hard to get the Russian troops to attack. They have to be metaphorically whipped into attacking. They have to be forced into the attack. Whereas the Koreans are taking on the tough jobs and doing it gladly. South Korean intelligence is shedding some light into all of this. When the North Korean troops are sent to fight in Russia, their families are sequestered, not allowed to see other people, not allowed to be in public. And if the Ukrainians capture a North Korean alive, his family might be tortured or sent to a labor camp or even be executed publicly as some sort of an example. This might shed some light on the bravery and adaptation of the North Korean troops. And as our major pointed out, they have yet to capture any North Koreans alive, perhaps because of this. In future episodes, we're going to cover more. We've not really talked about Ukraine yet on this channel, though we have talked some geopolitics. We will have some more updates on Ukraine in the coming weeks. We can get into the current state of the conflict. We can get into NATO's military buildup and rearmament, including serious talk of development of nuclear weapons in a number of NATO countries and among our Asian allies. The incredible advancements in battlefield tactics and technology. In the last 3 years, we have seen military tactics and technology advance decades just in a few years in the Ukraine war, and other countries, including the United States, are trying to catch up. And the involvement of some of the various other nations. If there are specific things about the Ukraine conflict you would like to know, please drop it in the comments, whether you're on Facebook or YouTube. Drop it in the comments and let me know what you would like me to cover with regard to the Ukraine conflict. As always, please smash that like button, subscribe, share with your friends. That is the quickest, easiest, most painless way you can help us spread the word on this. Thank you so much. We're grateful for everybody who has been doing so. Let's get into doors and corners like a good detective entering a possibly dangerous room. We're going to look behind doors and look around corners. What are the implications of what's happening? We think China has been supplying Russia with weapons and intelligence, but possibly supplying soldiers is a whole new ballgame. Now, it is hypothetically possible these Chinese citizens are, quote, volunteers. That's not really the way Chinese society works. It seems unlikely. They could be Chinese regulars or special forces. It is also possible that these Chinese citizens are people who were somehow caught up and captured by the Russians and pressed into service. But if that's the case, it seems unlikely they would have had identifying documents on them showing them to be Chinese citizens. So we are still trying to figure out what's going on. In any case, it's just not great news that they were there and they were captured. When it comes to the North Koreans, Both NATO and our Asian allies, especially Japan and South Korea, have vastly underestimated the quality of North Korean troops. It was believed they were half starved and still using tactics from the Korean War. And that may have been partially true 6 months ago, but it is true no longer. That's what we're learning as we watch them fight. The North Korean troops are physically fit and very brave on the battlefield. The North Korean troops are now using advanced technology and modern battlefield tactics. And you can bet the leadership back in Pyongyang is learning from this and training the rest of their army to match. So today I'm going to leave you our quote to end it today. One of the most famous quotes from the TV show Mad Men, if you ever saw it. And that quote is, "Not great, Bob." And what we're seeing here is not great. I will see you.